affiliates with these Somali migrants claim to have fed tens of thousands of American children during the pandemic. They were reimbursed for those meals by taxpayers. However, federal prosecutors found that almost all of those meals were never even delivered to hungry children. In fact, those organizations' leaders spent the money on houses, luxury cars, and real estate in Turkey and Kenya. Another scheme involved hundreds of organizations who were reimbursed for services that were supposed to help people at risk of homelessness. Once again, those services were never provided. All of this has happened under Democrat leadership in a Democrat-run state, where these refugees, these migrants are coming to the United States. They are abusing our system. They are draining our resources that should be going to law-abiding, taxpayer-funded, tax-paying Americans. And this president is not going to put up with it anymore. Rachel.
Thank you, Caroline. Just to follow back up on the Washington Post reporting, so much of the concern from Democrats and Republicans is focused on the survivors. Why won't the administration either confirm or deny or reveal whether or not there were survivors after that initial first strike? And what imminent threat would two survivors pose who were clinging presumably to the wreckage of that boat?
Again, as I said, I think you guys are sort of not listening fully to the statement I've provided. Admiral Bradley worked well within his authority and the law, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was totally destroyed and the threat to the narco-terrorists, to the United States, was eliminated. And for any further questions about his thinking, I would defer you to the Department of War. I obviously wasn't in the room for these stories.
Just to follow up, Caroline, just on the administration's policy when it comes to survivors, was there a change in policy after this strike on September 2nd? The Washington Post is reporting that these two survivors were killed after a second strike, but then in October, two people were rescued and returned to Colombia and Ecuador. So was there a decision that was made to handle survivors differently after these strikes?
Not to my knowledge, no. Steve.
The president confirmed that he spoke to the Venezuelan leader. Are you trying to negotiate his departure? Is there an asylum deal underway?
President, as you know, last night on Air Force One, he said, I don't want to comment on that, but I did speak to him in the effort of transparency. So there you go. You got your confirmation. I'll let him speak further if he wishes to on the details of that conversation that took place.
Steve Witkoff is headed to Moscow. How close are you to some sort of Ukraine agreement?
I think the administration feels very optimistic. Obviously, you've seen, Steve, that the president's entire team, including Special Envoy Witkoff and Secretary Rubio and the Vice President and the President himself, Secretary Hegseth as well, have been working so hard on this effort, and they all really want to see this war come to an end. And so just yesterday, Sunday, I believe that was yesterday, they had very good talks with the Ukrainians in Florida, and now, of course, Special Envoy Witkoff is on his way to Russia. This is sort of the shuttle diplomacy that you've seen from this administration play out, where we speak equally with both sides. We've put points on paper. Those points have been very much refined, but as for the details, I will let the negotiators negotiate, but we do feel quite good, and we're hopeful that this war can finally come to an end. Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. I've got a question about Ukraine and then a clarification about immigration changes that are happening. On Ukraine, President Trump very briefly yesterday said that corruption issues there were not helpful to the peace process following the resignation on Friday of President Zelensky's top aide, Andriy Yermak. We were told from your podium in the prior administration that, quote, there is no indication that there's been any kind of widespread corruption involving U.S. resources in Ukraine. What is the Trump administration's view of corruption issues in the wake of Yermak's resignation, and how is that impacting peace talks?
Well, look, I think the president has made it quite clear, as he said last night, corruption is never helpful. And he does not want to see American tax dollars taken advantage of, which is why he has stopped the endless checks that were being written by the previous administration to fund this war. The United States is selling weapons to NATO that are being sent to Ukraine. That's a very different thing than the American people writing blank checks to a war effort very far away. It does not degrade the administration's determination to see this war come to an end, but I think it exemplifies the president's desire to always put the American people and the American taxpayer first.
On immigration, you mentioned, or you emphasized that there would be a review of the Afghans who were resettled here under the previous administration.
Yes.
There's a lot of changes happening right now to asylum and to green card holders. What should the 2 million people with pending asylum claims, or the roughly 1 million people from the 18 other countries of concern, know about what's going on in the review? What's the status of all these other people?
There essentially paused for review. And the Department of Homeland Security is taking this very seriously, because we are not going to allow soldiers like we saw in American streets last week to be gunned down at the hands of these foreign nationals who had the privilege of coming to the United States of America. And unfortunately, this is not the only example of a dangerous Afghan who was let in by Joe Biden, who went on to harm the American people. There was an Afghan national who was let into the country under the Biden administration through Operation Allies Welcome, who shot and wounded 2 Fairfax, Virginia police officers during a routine traffic stop. He was killed by return fire after declaring, quote, "I should have served with the explicitive Taliban." 2 Afghan nationals were given legal status by the Biden administration as well, who were arrested and prosecuted for plotting a terrorist attack in Oklahoma just before Election Day in 2024. We all remember that. They possessed hundreds of rounds of ammunition and had pledged their allegiance to ISIS. There was also an Afghan national who was on the terror watch list who was apprehended by Border Patrol in 2024, but then he was released into our country by the Biden administration. Again, let's just highlight the absurdity of that. Border Patrol apprehended a terrorist, and then the Biden administration, because of their lax policies, still allowed him to come into the United States of America. I think everyone in this room, whether you want to admit it or not, does not want that individual living alongside you in your American neighborhood. And that individual was later arrested again after being allowed to live in the U.S. at large for over a year. Another one, a criminal illegal alien from Afghanistan, was arrested by ICE in 2025, convicted of second-degree assault, was previously allowed to stay in the country by the Biden administration. I have several more examples here. I'm happy to provide them to anyone in this room. John.
Thank you, Caroline. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to
Thank you.
and your young family. Hope you enjoyed it. I have 2 questions unrelated. The first, back to Afghanistan. My son and I walked by the horrific shooting less than 1 hour before it happened. So for anybody that's here, this thing's real. You outlined all of these unvetted Afghans that that were let in by Biden. We just had one the other day that was going to blow up a DHS building. Can you be specific on what the Trump administration is doing now to re-vet those that are here so that we don't get a repeat of what we had Wednesday night?
Sure. I can tell you 2 top-level things, and I would defer you to DHS for more of the specifics, as of course they are leading this effort, and I can assure you Secretary Noem is on the ball. I've spoken with her and her team, and they have an all-hands-on-deck effort to having resources go towards this, but we have paused all asylum adjudications, and then of course the special immigrant visas, which we know many Afghans utilize to come into the country under the Biden administration, have also now been paused. And I would just point out one more time that the Biden administration was responsible for the original sin that led to this tragic killing last week, the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. He was responsible for Operation Allies Welcome, which is something that this White House and the people behind this podium in the last administration fully and wholeheartedly embraced. And they assured the American people there would be no risk or no harm to them. And as I just laid out for you in those many examples, that unfortunately and tragically has not turned out to be the truth. Just ask the families of these 2 brave National Guardsmen, one who is no longer with us and one who continues to fight for his life. So I know the president is wholeheartedly focused on this effort, and I think unfortunately these events do remind us why it's so important that the president's mass deportation operation continues. With that,
follow up. The White House today launched a new fake news portal, which I found interesting. What is your objective with that, ultimately? And are you going to name the news networks, and are you also going to name some of the correspondents, some which may be here today?
Yes, we are. I'm glad you noticed. Much to the dismay of some of your colleagues in the room, John. And I think it goes to our original promise on day 1 to hold the media accountable, because unfortunately, and we deal with this all day, every day around here, there are so many fake stories that are unfortunately written that have inaccurate characterizations of meetings that took place, and it's all based on anonymous sourcing. And you know, the standard for journalism, unfortunately, has dropped to such a historic low in this country. And again, we deal with it every day, where you can have an anonymous source who has no idea what they're talking about, 0 credibility, call up a reporter in Washington and say, hey, I heard this, and then the next thing you know, it's on the front page of the New York Times. It's really incomprehensible. We appreciate the journalists, some of those who are in this room who do reach out, for comment who try to get things right, and there are some that remain. But overwhelmingly, the fake news that we see pumped out of this building on a day-to-day basis, it's honestly overwhelming to keep up with it all and to constantly have to defend against these fake news and these attacks. And I will point out one fake news story over the weekend before I let you all go from the New York Times that took about 1/3 of the president's daily calendar and his daily schedule and said that he's doing less than he did in his first term, or he might not be fit for the job. That is unequivocally false, and it's deeply unfortunate that this story was written by the same outlet and the same reporter who wrote this. Biden is doing 100% fine after tripping while boarding Air Force One. Oh, same outlet, same reporter who wrote that President Trump is not fit for the job. Are you kidding me? You all see him almost every single day. He is the most accessible president in history. He is taking meetings around the clock. Another one. Biden declared, quote, healthy and vigorous after his first presidential physical. I don't see headlines like that too often about this president. Again, same reporter, same outlet who wrote falsely over the weekend that President Trump is not fit for the job. I can assure you he absolutely is. You all see that with your own eyes on a daily basis, and the president's physician has now given you all 3 detailed reports on the state of the president's health. So with that, I will leave you all and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. You were just watching White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt taking reporter questions on a range of topics, including Venezuela, the Russia-Ukraine war and the peace process, and of course involving immigration. Now, tensions between the United States and Venezuela are escalating. President Trump says he spoke with President Nicolas Maduro, while U.S. lawmakers demand answers on alleged follow-up strikes in the Caribbean. Here's more.
President Trump confirmed yesterday he had a phone call with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro as Washington intensifies military and diplomatic pressure on Caracas.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit
No,
about
I can't do that.
Mr. President, would you say it went well?
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call.
The news comes as the Trump administration closes Venezuelan airspace, warning airlines and pilots and drug dealers and human traffickers to avoid the region.
Mr. President, on Venezuela, can you tell us more about why the airspace above Venezuela should be considered closed?
Because we consider Venezuela to be not a very friendly country. They sent millions of people, really, and probably a number in excess of that. And a lot of those people shouldn't be in our country, from jails, from gangs, from drug dealers.
The Federal Aviation Administration earlier this month warned airlines of heightened military activity in the region, sparking several canceled flights to Venezuela.
Does your warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
Tensions have surged following more than 20 U.S. strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats since September. The administration says these operations have killed more than 80 people designated as narco-terrorists. The lawmakers from both parties are now demanding answers after reports that U.S. forces carried out a follow-up strike on survivors of an attack in September. War Secretary Pete Hegseth has denied ordering any follow-up strikes, calling reports fabricated and inflammatory.
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%.
You don't know if there was
You're talking about the 2 men?
The second strike to kill the
Yeah.
2 men.
No, he said he didn't do it. He said he never said it.
Venezuela is now accusing the U.S. of murder, acknowledging for the first time that some of the dead were Venezuelan nationals. In Caracas yesterday, Maduro re-emerged in public for the first time in days. He appeared at an annual specialty coffee awards event and avoided any direct mention of the crisis. The unusually highly public president has not been seen for days, leading to speculation about his whereabouts.
President Trump announcing the airspace around Venezuela should be considered closed. Joining us to discuss is Jonathan Houlihan. He's a commander in the U.S. Navy's Judge Advocate General's Corps Reserves. He's a veteran of both the Iraq and Afghanistan combat theaters and a designated expert in international national security and operational law. So, Jonathan, always great to have you join us. I just have to ask you this. Does the United States have the legal authority to declare another sovereign nation's airspace closed?
Well, I think it's, first of all, anything I say on the program doesn't reflect the DoD or it's in my personal capacity, so based on my previous experience. But yeah, to declare that airspace closed, it's really more of a deconfliction matter, and there's increased operations, obviously, in the airspace. There may be more intelligence gathering activities, more military planes, so it's really a deconflicting of the airspace. So it's normal whenever countries are deconflicting airspace for increased operations.
And you know, Jonathan, FBI Director Kash Patel also talked about this topic. I actually have a clip from an interview that we did, our sister media did, the Epoch Times. Can you take a look at this?
The drug trafficking organizations, say down in Mexico and Colombia and Venezuela and elsewhere, are doing, the guys that are making the fentanyl. We know where they are, we know who they are, we know how they do it.
So it seems like the U.S. knows a lot about the drug operations in Venezuela. Can you just talk about, in your perspective, how do you see potential strikes playing out?
Well, I think they've laid the roadmap publicly, right? You have the FTO designation, Foreign Terrorist Organization designation, through the State Department. So that allows you to not only sanction and for financial issues and sanction individuals, but also to conduct military strikes on those designated narco-terrorists. So for that specific designation, it's going to be more based on status-based on those individuals, based on the intelligence they have that link those individuals to that FTO designation and the narco-terrorism activities.
And of course, Trump said there could be land action in Venezuela, right? What is the legal criteria for conducting military operations inside another sovereign country?
Well, certainly there's going to be, that would be more in the classified space. You're going to have the president dealing with, probably would be other agencies that would deal with that. There'd be a presidential finding, whatnot. And that would be very, operations that wouldn't be so public. So in that context, if there were ground operations, it'd be very surgical. It would be very succinct. But I would assume a lot of it would be, targets with airstrikes with maybe a very small contingent force. Again, I don't know if that's actually going to occur. If that would occur, I don't have any intelligence to suggest that. It could be just posturing as well to let them know, the Venezuelans know, hey, we're serious about this cartel threat, this FTO threat, the narco-terrorists that reside in your country, that are conducting operations that are affecting the American public, and it's coming across our border. Fentanyl, as you said, I mean, it's killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. It's a very deadly synthetic opioid that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans in an open border. So they've closed the border. Now there's the maritime threat. They're addressing that maritime threat. And if they're not able to address the maritime threat, they're going to seek to strike targets, their infrastructure, their command and control nodes within Venezuela.
I mean, Jonathan, are we in uncharted territory here? Has there been a precedent for U.S. actions such as this, whether we're talking about, drug boat strikes, military buildup, or potential land action?
Well, I mean, if you look at the Obama years, you had strikes all over. You had them all over the Middle East, drone strikes that were in sovereign nations based on status-based targets, whether they're Al-Qaeda or other ISIS-affiliated terrorist organizations. Yeah, there's certainly precedent for this. They called them the drone wars back in the day. It was when the strikes started getting approved in third countries. It was outside of the traditional battle space. And look, let's look at this realistically. This is not traditional warfare. This is not armed conflict with uniformed nations. This is non-international armed conflict with belligerents that have taken up arms or otherwise conducted military activity, narco-terrorist activity against the United States. So there is a precedent for this. It's just not what your listeners need to understand is that the same lines of effort that go with the terrorist activities are also with the drug trade, the narco-terrorist activities, human smuggling, human trafficking. All of these lines of effort are similar. So just because it's not an Al-Qaeda affiliated group taken up arms against the United States doesn't mean it's not a clear and present danger or threat to the United States, our population, our citizens, or our property. So President Trump has a duty and responsibility as Commander-in-Chief under Article 2 to conduct military operations to protect the American people. Now, I understand Congress has a role. Congress is going to do what Congress does. They're going to provide oversight. But at the end of the day, the president has to strike when American lives are at risk. So it's the burden of command, the burden of being the president, the burden of being commander-in-chief is to take these things serious and strike and make sure American lives are protected. So yes, there's precedent in the Middle East, and now there's precedent in the Caribbean. And if they take that step further and strike within designated FTO targets within Venezuela, I'm sure there's going to be démarche actions. There's going to be all sorts of diplomatic issues that go up to the UN. But at the end of the day, the United States has an inherent right of self-defense, and that includes persons, property, and our citizens.
Okay, Jonathan, I just have one more thing I'm wondering here. And you brought up Al-Qaeda, which is a terrorist organization, and the Trump administration last week formally designated Maduro and his allies of his government as members of a foreign terrorist organization. So I'm wondering, what tools does this open up? Could this move give the U.S. expanded military options for striking inside Venezuela, for example?
Well, it opens up several tools. Like I said, a lot of the tools are designed for sanctions, to sanction that activity. We've done that in Russia. We've done it across the Middle East. We've done it in Iran. We've sanctioned banks. We've sanctioned financial institutions that have done business. You've heard about these snapback sanctions, where anybody that does third-party sanctions, anybody that does business with them. So it could open up a whole toolkit of financial incentives for those that do business in Venezuela not to do business in Venezuela. It also makes them targetable. It makes them status-based targets if the president or the chain of command authorizes those strikes. So it opens up that toolkit. It also opens up something that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but if they're designated as FTOs and you're smuggling drugs, now you can be prosecuted under the material support statute. If you're providing support to these networks, you can now be prosecuted under 18 USC section 223B, I think it is, the Bravo section. So it opens up also a way to prosecute people. So it opens up multiple tools through diplomacy, financial means, through sanctions, through the Department of Treasury, through the military, and also through the Department of Justice. So it really is a whole of government approach to stop this narco-terrorist activity.
Well, all right. Great insight, Jonathan, today. Always great to speak with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
The National Guardsman who survived last week's shooting is showing signs of improvement. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey provides an update. More news after this break.
A new era at the design studio by Mathis Home has arrived. For decades, we've brought you the most recognized names in designer furniture. Now we've created our very own house of brands, designed to inspire, built to endure, and delivered directly from the factory to you. Elevated, on-trend, and uncompromising in quality and value. Come experience our world-class design destination and discover what's new, what's now, and what's next at the Design Studio by Mathis Home.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
With Select Specs £6 specs, you can get 10 pairs of prescription glasses for just £60. That includes frames, prescription lenses, and delivery free to your door. And what makes this really special is each pair can have a different prescription. So it's glasses for everyone. SelectSpecs.com/£6. 10 frames, all with prescription lenses and anti-scratch coating for just £60. You don't get that on the high street. Right now you can save an extra 5% with offer code CG5OFF.
The National Guardsman who survived last week's shooting in Washington, D.C. is showing signs of improvement. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey provided an update on his condition this afternoon.
Andrew remains in serious condition. We did have some positive news that we were told that Andrew was asked if he could hear the nurse who asked the question to give a thumbs up, and he did respond. And we were told that he also wiggled his toes. So we take that as a positive sign.
Fellow Guardsman Sarah Beckstrom was killed in Wednesday's shooting. During a vigil on Saturday, Morrissey said of the 20-year-old, quote, "She had a lot of kindness and certainly had courage." President Trump has invited the parents of both Guardsmen to the White House. The 29-year-old Afghan national faces 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of assault with intent to kill. In response to the attack, the Trump administration has halted all asylum decisions and paused visas for travelers with Afghan passports. Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO, was back in court today. His lawyers are fighting to get evidence excluded from his murder trial. Mangione was arrested days after the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. At the time, a gun and notebook were recovered. Prosecutors say the notebook expressed an intent to, quote, whack a healthcare insurance executive. The defense team wants these items thrown out because they say police did not have a warrant to search Mangione's backpack. This would be a blow to prosecutors and would deprive them of a possible murder weapon and evidence that could point to motive. A federal appeals court rules that President Trump's appointee, Alina Habba, can't serve as the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey.
The Trump administration pushed for Habba to remain in the role after her interim appointment. The court said she needed Senate confirmation. Challenges to Habba's tenure came after people she charged with federal crimes tried to block the charges. They argued she wasn't lawfully in the role after the 120-day interim term had passed. Habba has said she was fighting to stay in the position on behalf of all federal prosecutor candidates who have been denied Senate hearings. Other Trump nominees for federal prosecutor have also faced legal challenges. A federal judge dismissed the high-profile cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James for a similar reason, involving the interim U.S. Attorney for East Virginia.
Lawmakers are returning to Washington, D.C. this week. The House is teeing up a vote meant to discourage U.S. schools from taking grants from the Chinese Communist Party. In many cases, these grants are used to ingrain the Communist Party's ideology into the minds of young students. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
House lawmakers are working to prevent young students from being influenced by the Chinese Communist Party. The Education Committee reported earlier this year that Confucius classrooms have infiltrated more than 500 American K-12 schools.
The CCP Confucius classrooms pose a national security risk, a geopolitical security risk, and an academic security risk. To combat these threats, the committee...
The chairman described Confucius classrooms as CCP propaganda outposts. Many lawmakers have raised concerns that these types of classrooms are disguised as cultural exchange, but that the Chinese Communist Party has other goals.
The CCP doesn't do these things with a charitable intent. The entire purpose of the programs is they expect something in return, control over curriculum, and thereby influence over the young minds that are subject to it.
Congressman Kiley's bill called Protect Our Kids would allow the government to withhold tax dollars from elementary through high schools that have financial support from China. It will be voted on this week.
It is unacceptable that American school districts have entered into financial agreements with entities tied to the CCP, an adversary of the United States, a regime with one of the worst human rights records in modern history.
Lawmakers recently passed legislation to tackle the issue at the college level. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
More states are redistricting. Indiana House lawmakers released a draft of a congressional map. It could lead to 2 more Republican seats in Congress. The map would put the GOP on top in all 9 of the state's congressional districts. The biggest change would come in Marion County, where state capital Indianapolis is located. The county will be split into 4 separate districts and dilute the Democrats' power there. The map still needs approval. In the Indiana State Senate, Republican President Pro Tem Roderick Prey opposes the new map. Other Republicans have said they prefer flipping districts rather than redrawing the map. The White House has been heavily involved in the effort. Vice President J.D. Vance has visited the state twice. A vote is expected in the next 2 weeks. Turning Point USA is planning a rally in favor of the map. No respite for some of the areas still recovering from a disruptive post-Thanksgiving storm. A new winter storm is racing out of the plains toward the northeast. Forecasters warn the system will spread snow, ice, and heavy rain from the central plains into the Midwest and interior Northwest today. The National Weather Service says the storm will bring hazardous snow and ice to the mid-Atlantic and Northeast as the first big winter storm of the season moves in. In New York, Lewis County is under a winter weather advisory, with up to 8 inches of snow expected. Travelers have been urged to use caution as snow-covered roads and restricted visibility are likely. And after the snow and ice, a surge of Arctic air will settle in, dropping temperatures to their lowest levels of the season in parts of the central and eastern U.S. President Trump said the United States could eliminate income taxes over the next couple of years due to tariff revenue. We talked to an economist about the feasibility of this after the break.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight. Skylar, come here. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
I am so glad you ladies are here. You each have your own rooms. Thank you. Get settled in. I'll call you for dinner. Adopting teen sisters, it's a lot. Girls, you're gonna be late. You want breakfast? No thanks, we're good. They're always in their own world. How'd you get there? Twice the work. Twice the surprises.
Just try it.
But if you think of it that way, they're also twice as fulfilling.
I think you should ask her yourself.
Is it okay to call you Mom?
Of course you can.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how's sketches, mate? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, Backpack Kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutVaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
President Trump said the United States could eliminate income taxes over the next couple of years due to tariff revenue. Joining us to discuss is Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Tressis, international financial analyst and author of the book Freedom or Equality. So Daniel, good to see you. What is your view on the likelihood and feasibility as well of tariff revenue completely replacing income taxes?
Hi, Don. Well, obviously, completely replacing income taxes, very difficult. Income tax receipts go up to $2.4 trillion. The latest figures that we have from tariffs account for revenues of about $24 billion a month. So that would be a little bit more than $300 billion in a year if everything remains the same. I think that what President Trump is trying to convey is the following, is that there could be a substantial reduction of income taxes, particularly for the lower end of the income tax bracket, that could even end up eliminating the income tax for the lower range. But eliminating entirely the income tax seems very, very difficult, certainly from a revenue standpoint. There is another way of doing it, obviously, which is by reducing dramatically government spending. But we also must acknowledge that it's quite unlikely that any administration is able to reduce government spending by the equivalent of 2.4 trillion, because it would include a very, very significant part, or actually almost more than half of mandatory spending. Therefore, I think that what President Trump is actually looking at is probably eliminating the lower end of the income tax bracket entirely. And that actually could be feasible.
Okay, so Daniel, whether we're talking about eliminating it completely or partially, I mean, in principle, the plan could stimulate economic growth, right, by reducing the tax burden on workers.
In any shape or form, any measure that we have discussed actually a couple of times, like, for example, reducing tax, even providing a check from the extraordinary revenues coming from tariffs, etc. Any of those measures are going to be positive for consumption, for economic growth, and for the improvement of the manufacturing and the services sector within the United States through domestic demand. Any of those measures will be positive. But we also have to acknowledge that the first thing that the United States needs to do is to rein in the enormous fiscal burden that has been inherited from the Biden administration, with a deficit that stands close to the 2 trillion figure. The first and foremost policy needs to be eliminating, or certainly bringing that deficit to the lowest level possible.
Okay, Daniel, could you just address some concerns out there on this plan? For example, hypothetically speaking, if the U.S. were to impose $2.4 trillion of tariffs a year, what would be the impact on trade and the economy?
Well, certainly 2.4 trillion in tariffs is a phenomenal figure, and it looks almost impossible to achieve if you look at it from the figures of imports into the United States. But let's assume that it would happen. Let's assume $2.4 trillion of tariffs from abroad. It would definitely reduce international trade with the United States, absolutely, because let's assume that the entirety of those tariffs are absorbed by the producers abroad. Even if that were the case, it's going to make it very, very difficult for those producers to go to the U.S. market in the shape and form that we see it today. So, in essence, it would certainly have a very, very dramatic impact on international trade. It would certainly also create the desire from other governments of imposing very aggressive tariffs against the United States if it's as successful as to reach the levels of revenues that make it possible to eliminate such an incredibly receipt-heavy tax as the income tax. No, so I don't know. It's very, very, very challenging to think that something of this magnitude can happen. I think that the opportunities that are more feasible are in a reduction in taxes for the U.S. citizens, maybe even the possibility of a check if the revenues are exceptional. And certainly now that the waters of trade agreements have settled, and we know that next year there's going to be a significant level of growth in international trade, and there will be very, very low implications of these tariffs on inflation, then at least what we know right now is that there could be revenue positive and growth positive measures that may not entirely eliminate the income tax, but would certainly improve the domestic economy. At 2.4 trillion of tariff revenues seems to be in any shape and form almost impossible.
Okay, let's say we get a partial reduction in income taxes through tariffs. The question still remains, though, are tariffs a sustainable revenue source for a country?
Well, if it continues to be a growth economy that the rest of the world wants to sell to, absolutely they are. In fact, if you look at China, if you look at Brazil, if you look at the European Union, we talk a lot about tariffs in the United States, but we don't talk about the tariffs and non-tariff barriers that these economies continue to implement, and it seems that nobody is creating a big fuss about it all. So are they a measure that is leveling the playing field in trade, and that at the same time is strengthening international trade and improving the situation for United States companies with non-inflationary effects? Yes. Are they a magic wand that can generate perpetual revenues forever and increasing those revenues? Not necessarily. So I think that we need to be balanced. I think that the measures that have been implemented this year have proven to be positive for the economy. The economy is growing at a 4% annualized rate, according to the Atlanta Federal Reserve. They have not created inflationary pressures. The latest estimates from Bloomberg Economics show that inflation in the next month is going to be at the same level as it was in August and lower than in September and October last year. And at the same time, we are seeing that it's generating significant revenues and that the deficit is being reduced. Then there are a lot of positive elements. What we need to see is the effect in 2026 and 2027. If, as I expect, the deficit of the United States is going to drop down significantly in terms of GDP and also in terms of in absolute terms, and at the same time, we're going to get a stronger economic growth, more manufacturing, and a better service economy, all those elements then are likely to generate a positive outcome. And I think that that is undeniable right now.
Yeah, I mean, those are all positive outcomes. Daniel, maybe you can just address one more concern here. And that is, do you think announcing tariffs will fund U.S. government operations sort of leave a bad taste in other countries' mouths? Because I believe you said before other countries pay for these tariffs. So would tariff-targeted nations think the U.S. is basically exporting its tax burden onto them?
It's a great question, but ultimately, if you think about it, that's what all governments do, don't they? When they are imposing CO2 taxes on U.S. companies, when they're imposing the different regulatory taxation and tariff and non-tariff barriers on U.S. companies, they are doing it and saying to their citizens in their countries that they're doing it to fund policies and programs in that country, no? So yes, absolutely, taxation and trade measures are all taken to try to improve the situation or to try to pay for programs in the country. But that is not only in the United States, it's also in other countries. What you're absolutely right is that there is a completely biased narrative all over the world in which it seems that the only country in the world that puts tariffs is the United States, which is false. And it seems that the only country in the world that wants to pay for an improvement in the conditions for their own citizens is the United States, when China, when the European Union, when India themselves are actually doing exactly that, using the trade, tariff, and taxation barriers to fund programs or supporting local industries.
Very good points there, Daniel. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you very much, Don. Have a good day.
Major trade news today. The Trump administration says it has reached an agreement in principle with the UK on pharmaceutical pricing. The deal is part of the new US-UK economic prosperity deal announced by President Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Under the agreement, the UK will reverse years of declining National Health Service spending on innovative medicines. It will raise the net price it pays for new drugs by 25%. Britain also committed to limiting rebate demands. In return, the US will exempt UK-made pharmaceuticals, ingredients, and medical technology from Section 232 tariffs. It will also avoid launching tariff investigations tied to UK pricing practices during Trump's term. Officials say the agreement is designed to correct long-standing trade imbalances and strengthen investment and as well drug innovation in both countries. Expanding peace in the Middle East. That was one topic discussed between Israel's Prime Minister and President Trump. On X, Benjamin Netanyahu's office confirmed that the two leaders chatted. The Post said they talked about disarming Hamas and demilitarizing the Gaza Strip. They also talked about expanding peace agreements. The chat came a day after President Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, "It is very important that Israel maintains a long and strong and true dialogue with Syria, that nothing takes place that will interfere with Syria's evolution into a prosperous state." Netanyahu's office noted that during their talk, President Trump invited the Prime Minister to meet at the White House in the near future. A critical round of diplomacy over the weekend, with U.S. and Ukrainian officials pushing for a framework to end the war. President Trump says progress is being made.
They're going along, and they're going along well. We want to stop people from being killed. Doesn't have much to do with us, but I'd like to see if we could save a lot of souls.
Do you want, to tell Putin, here is my deadline for you to...
No, I don't have a deadline. I have a deadline when the war is over. And hopefully the war is going to be over. 27,000 people killed last week. 27,000 over the last 3 or 4 weeks. 27,000 people killed. That war should end.
The U.S.-Ukraine talks unfolded yesterday at a private club near Miami. Ukraine entered the meeting facing intensifying pressure at home, including a major corruption probe and widespread power outages from Russian strikes. The talks also came as Russian forces continued to push along the front lines. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters yesterday the session with the Ukrainian team was productive, but work remains in the search for a peace deal. Rubio says the U.S. has to bring Russia on board and find a middle ground between Moscow's goals and Kyiv's goals. If you've never given any thought to safety concerns for female runners, well, you're probably not alone. When we come back, NTD takes a look at why many women don't feel safe while running. Stay with us.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week. Still couldn't pay the bills. Skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. You know, I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade small batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Be your own hero.
Safety while running is something many women have concerns with, but it's a problem that tends to get overlooked, and incidents are often not called to be investigated. NTD Sean Marshall spoke with a woman who started a clothing brand so women can feel safer while running.
Studies show that a concerning number of women feel unsafe while running. A 2023 Adidas study found it to be 92%.
I've had, like so many other women, catcalls, cars honking. A lot of women just want to run in peace.
Those numbers motivated Faith Chima and the FitSafe clothing brand to make a difference in combining fitness and safety together. FitSafe is also running their own survey to get more up-to-date data.
So it started out as a personal frustration of mine because I could only run very early in the mornings as a mom of 3 and busy attorney. And I was always worrying about my safety. So I started to dig into the research because I was looking for an active wear that would enhance my safety and something that was also functional and stylish.
During the New York Marathon Runners Expo, a table caught my attention because it had safety gear on it. I then realized women's safety while running was something I never even thought about.
Yes, so there is limited data on what women have experienced while running. A lot of women, several of my customers have come up to me to say that they really resonate with our mission because they have been followed on many occasions. Some of them have been harassed. The data shows that 68% of women have been attacked.
Chima says many of these cases go unreported because the women are either not believed, taken seriously, or don't want to relive the experience.
So we are solving this problem by designing intelligent clothing. We believe that wearing intelligent clothing can make a difference, and so all of our pieces are made with functional pockets that can be used to store your phone, your safety essentials. Studies have shown that one of the best tools to carry on around to keep you safe is a phone. And so we have crop bras that are designed with front zippered pockets, so that way you have your phone right in front of you and you have quick access to what you need to keep yourself safe.
Chima believes there should be more conversations about running safety and that men should be invited into the conversations, as men are not having the same experiences and could be on the lookout and educated on how to notice when something strange is going on. Sean Marshall, NTD News.
The White House is officially decked out for Christmas. First Lady Melania Trump personally selected this year's theme, Home is Where the Heart Is. It's the First Lady's 5th year shaping the holiday. Look at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. She says the decor celebrates American generosity, patriotism, and gratitude. Here's more.
This year's display includes over 50 Christmas trees, Melania Trump's signature wreaths with red bows outside the windows, and the official White House Christmas tree, an 18-foot fir in the Blue Room. In the East Room, the patriotic decor honors America's upcoming 250th anniversary. The Green Room focuses on family fun with games and Lego portraits. The Red Room highlights her Fostering the Future initiative, decorated with thousands of butterflies. And in the Blue Room, this year's theme honors Gold Star families. Blue, gold, and ivory decor and custom 3D printed ornaments show every state's bird and flower, and gold stars symbolize sacrifice. And in the state dining room, a massive gingerbread house features the South Portico, built from more than 100 pounds of gingerbread dough. Public Christmas tours begin tomorrow.
The TSA says it screened over 3.1 million travelers yesterday, an all-time record. The agency said its top 10 busiest days all surged past 3 million. Meanwhile, the TSA said it was introducing a $45 fee option for travelers without real ID. Starting February 1st, travelers will be able to use an alternative identity verification system called TSA Confirm ID. According to the TSA, more than 94% of passengers already use their real ID or other acceptable forms of identification. The TSA is urging travelers without real ID to pay the fee online before traveling. The agency said it expects increased wait times for travelers who do not provide acceptable identification. How is President Trump's health? The White House reads out his MRI report from October. More news after this break.
Picture this, the heart of Manhattan, full of energy, movement, and life. Now imagine bringing that same vitality into your home with trusted health insights for your body, mind, and soul. Every week, Vital Signs dives into health issues that matter the most. The foods that strengthen your immune system, the exercises that keep you moving, the mindfulness practices that calm your mind, plus expert advice from doctors and health leaders you can trust. This isn't just another health show. It's real insight designed to keep you informed, inspired, and in motion. So whether you're starting your day with focus or winding down with balance, Vital Signs brings health and vitality straight into your living room.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green lip mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
This works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. And look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. And Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95.